Hello everyone, Andrew here, and today I am heading to the Waterloo video game swap meet put on by VGCC, Video Game Collectors Community. And yeah, I usually go to swap meets and things like this. They happen a few times a year, and they're usually really great for finding, rarer retro items. There's a lot of, more common things too. If you're just getting into collecting, or if there's, there's that certain game from your childhood you're looking for, you'll usually be able to find it at events like this. But there's also, those kind of, rarer, more obscure things, for people such as myself, who, are trying to finish off things like my NES collection. So I'm hoping to find a few things like that there. And I sometimes get a table at it, and, I'll use it as kind of like a home base, and I'll sell a few things and use it for trading. Although I actually don't have very many doubles, at the moment. I traded them, in the not-too-distant past. I got a whole bunch of NES games. You might remember that Picket video. So my doubles are really low. I don't have, a whole bunch of PS2 and NES and Super NES games like I used to. Although I do have this one box here, which I plan to take with me. And I hope to trade some things inside of this box for some things that I need at the swap meet without actually having a table, selling and trading from there. So I figured I would show some of the things in this box that I plan to take with me. And we shall see how I do. I'll take this video, and I might mash it together with some footage from the swap meet, and then after that I'll talk about, hopefully, some of the things I got from there, and hopefully a lot of this stuff will be traded, because these are all doubles, things I've either picked up better copies of over time, things like that. And there's actually some very decent stuff in here too. It's not all Mario and Duck Hunts or anything like that. So I guess we might as well just, let's see, where should we start? I guess I'll put the box on my footstool right here. And the first two things we have are two Game & Watches. These have been popping up in my videos a lot lately. We have Parachute here and Super Mario Brothers. Now, Parachute does not have a battery cover, although Super Mario Brothers does. Unfortunately, when it comes to Game & Watches, the battery cover is essential, pretty much, because that is actually what keeps, the two really small batteries in place. You could probably use some tape, but it might not work so well. Luckily, however, for most Game & Watches, the battery covers are actually interchangeable, so you can take the one off of Super Mario Brothers and put it on Parachute, so it's the wrong color, but I mean, your batteries will at least stay in. So yeah, Mario is complete. Unfortunately, Parachute is not, but hopefully, Game & Watches are pretty sought after, especially if you get both of them. I mean, you could just, take the battery cover from one to the other whenever you plan to use it. So I hope to trade those for something good at the swap meet. What else have we got in here? Ah, yes, we have a good old copy of Tengen Tetris, the more sought after version of Tetris on the NES. And frankly, it's probably the better version of it too. I mean, you have multiplayer and all that in there. It's actually really good, and it's definitely, not the most common game. Right here, we have Legend of Zelda, Four Swords Adventures, with a very kind of crushed box, but yeah, it's not the most in-shape box. There's nothing else inside of the box, although the game itself is in very nice shape. It is the Player's Choice version. You can tell it's Canadian, as, Player's Choice in French, as Les Croix des Joyeux. And it is complete though, so I mean, if you're looking for Four Swords Adventures, or if anyone out there is, this should hopefully catch their attention, and they'll even get a box with it, which, not in perfect shape, but it's a box nonetheless. Next up, we have some complete in-box Game Boy Advance games. We have some Mario Pinball Land. Actually, that's somewhat of a lie. They're 100% complete with the exception of the inserts. But if you go by complete, it has the book, the manual, and the game itself. Sorry, I mean the book and the manual are the same thing. It has the manual, the game, and the box. So it's complete by those standards, and you can pretty much get an insert from any game and put it in it. We have Spyro Season of Ice. We have Sonic Advance 2. And we have Super Monkey Ball Jr., so 4 Game Boy Advance games there. Next up, we have 2 complete Sega Master System games. The extremely sought after Great Golf, with the book and everything, and the case is actually quite nice too. And we also have Choplifter complete, for the Sega Master System. We also have one of those tabletop Pac-Man games. There were a few kind of older tabletop arcade games, which are very neat, and this is one of those. And unfortunately, like Parachute, those battery covers are just, the darndest thing, because people lose them somewhere. I mean, I can understand, you throw it in the box, you throw it in the instruction manual, but to lose the battery cover, it just seems so bizarre. I mean, especially on, like a big tabletop thing, people used to mess with them on the back of their Game Boy Advance, and eventually they would snap off, but I don't know how you lose it on Pac-Man. But anyway, I got one that had the battery cover, so that that is the reason for trading the one without it. Getting down to the bottom here, we have Descent, one of those big box PS1 games. That is complete. And some very just not so great odds and ends. Vigilant 8 for 64. Ken Griffey Jr.'s Major League Baseball for the Super Nintendo, as well as some awesome Game Gear games that everyone's just going to be, you know, dying to get off my hands. NBA Jam, I don't know why I'm going so over, you know, off the sides in this video, and more baseball. So overall, these are things I'm taking to the swap meet today. I hope to trade them for some stuff, you know, spend as little as possible. That's always been the way to collect. I mean, you get things and you trade them and you hope to not spend money. Money will probably be spent, but we shall see. So yeah, I have to pack all this stuff back up and head off to the swap meet. So yeah, there'll be some footage, some stuff, and then I'll probably come back and show stuff that I got, and hopefully a lot of these things I have just shown will no longer be in my possession. So yeah, let's cut to something else. Alright, so we're going to do some post-commentary on the swap meet footage. This is, of course, the entrance line, and I just wanted to give you an idea of, you know, how many people go to these things. Like, this line was pretty big, and there was, of course, you know, tons of people in there already. I showed up close to the beginning, but not quite right at the beginning, and stayed for over 3 hours, so I was quite exhausted by the end, and you will notice that in the pickup parts that you see after this. But they've grown so much since when I started going to these, you know, many years back now. It's just incredible. I think everyone's, you know, getting back into the retro game scene. Everyone's sick of modern day gaming. Bring me back my, you know, Super Mario Brothers 3. But yeah, it's just these clips here are just going to show some of the interesting things that are being sold. There's an Earthbound reproduction cart which had some of the Japanese differences on it. That were, you know, changed when it came to North America. And, of course, import stuff, too. I would not be happy if there weren't tons of import games. Super Famicom is definitely the most prominent console that you see import stuff for, although there we have a whole bunch of Japanese Pokemon games and lots of other interesting things, too. And, of course, there would always be display cases with, you know, the more valuable things. These are actually some, you know, some hacks put onto carts. Like, there we have a Return to Dinosaur Land. When are they going to start putting Mario Omega on reproduction carts? You know, I didn't put all that effort into making it Super Nintendo compatible for nothing. I mean, here we have another display case with some crazy things in it. You can see DuckTales 2 there. And overall, just whenever you saw a display case, you knew that would usually be where the more valuable things were. Also, Games Exchange had the Oculus Rift setup, which is actually really cool, and you could put it on and you could explore the kind of ground floor and the courtyard of Super Mario 64's castle, and that was really neat. I tried it, and I mean, really, you would look up, and it would actually, you know, the camera would look up, and you could look around. Of course, you had to control it with the, you know, the controller, so I guess it's not really virtual reality yet, but it's still a really neat thing. Again, some things behind glass, some Virtual Boy stuff in the box, and it just goes to show you the range of things you find. Like, there's some Neo Geo MVS carts. You even have some metal slugs and stuff there, which is really cool. But, I mean, you get all the retro stuff. There's lots of newer stuff. And it's just such a fun thing to go to. Even if you don't, you know, buy too much, just you'll see so many things that you probably never even knew existed. And, of course, yeah, you get the table like this where it's a lot of, you know, the more common yet very popular games like the Zeldas and Mario 64 and things like that. And as you go down, you know, there's just a whole bunch of different things, and people always bring all their stuff in plastic tubs, which is, you know, it's the way to do it. Also, here we have complete in the box, apparently brand new, never even taken out, that storage cart that I have. I was actually asking questions about almost a year ago now, so I had to, you know, get some of that on film. And of course, Star Tropics pops up a lot. It's a super inexpensive game, so come to a swap meet and pick it up, and hey, there is an NES game I don't have. We may be seeing that in a few minutes in the pickup portion. You never know. And of course, almost any swap meet I've ever been to has had, you know, a gaming section set up. So we had some awesome Mario All-Stars there. Diddy Kong Racing, which is funny considering I just played Mario Kart. We have some Mario Tuck Hunt over here, and it looks like, you know, it's doing pretty well. It must have known I was coming, so it glitched out. What else have we got? Yeah, there was a Tetris Tournament going on, which is really neat. And you could win $100 and a cool trophy, which I believe is what we're looking at right there. So that's pretty cool, you know, the bracket set up. And yeah, just things like that are really neat. I didn't enter the Tetris tournament just because I'm not bad at Tetris, but I knew I would get smoked. Because I'm sure that, you know, people train all year long for that. Also, yeah, stuff that's not even video games, like random Pokemon merchandise. It's just so neat, the things that you'll come across at these swap meets. And if you do ever have a chance to check one out, I could not recommend it enough. Also, you know, Nintendo Power magazines, I love going through those, and of course, Star Tropics. When that was in the front, I didn't even have to put it there. Someone had very good taste. Super Mario 3 guidebook, that could help us out a bit. And just a whole bunch of other stuff too. We'll see some Nintendo Power in my pickups. And yeah, even some, you know, pixel perler bead art, which is really neat. But anyway, we are approaching the end of the swap meet footage, so get ready for pickups. And yeah, I was quite tired after this, so please cut me some slack when I ramble on. Alright, we are back. Hopefully that footage gets edited in there properly. So yeah, I don't think I mentioned this, but in the first part, or if I did, I really should have gone back and made sure. This is being recorded on April 6th, so it's, no, it's not really going up the actual day that it happened, but it's going to go up, you know, a little bit later in the week, after everything gets edited and all that kind of fun stuff. So I took a box of stuff, and I brought back a box of stuff. So what did I trade? I traded Four Swords Adventures with the box. I traded the Super Mario Brothers Game & Watch. I traded Mario Pinball and Super Monkey Ball Game Boy Advance games in the box. I traded a couple of Nintendo 64 games. Some things I didn't show. I actually have a whole bunch of Pokemon Platinum. What are they called? Strategy guides. Wow, the name was slipping my mind. Strategy guides, and they're like 500 pages, and they're brand new. So I traded a few of those for some things that I didn't have. And also, when I bought all of these cabinets that you see, they came with kind of trays that, you know, the games are kept in stores with, you know, the kind of spring-loaded thing that pushes them forward as you take the front game out. So I traded some of those as well, because of all the cabinets I got, I definitely did not need to keep all of the trays. So I forgot to mention those in the first part of the video, but I did trade a whole bunch of stuff, and overall, everything you're about to see I traded for, and I spent less than $100 of cash throughout the day. So hopefully, there are some cool things in here that people enjoy seeing. As I mentioned, you know, some commons, like, when you go to swap meet, there's some more common stuff, and then there's also, you know, rarer stuff, and some import stuff, of course, and I love my import stuff, so we do have a decent amount of that to show. Well, I'm actually kind of debating, what do I want to start with? We might start with the import stuff, just for fun. Or at least the Super Famicom stuff. There's some original Famicom Japanese Game Boy. We will start with the, with that. Okay, here we go. So, to start off, some games, and also something really, really cool I've also always really wanted, but we'll get to that. Although the first game here is Yoshi no Road Hunting, also known as Super Mario... No, not Super Mario. No, also known as Yoshi Safari in North America. Road Hunting. What a weird kind of name for anything that is. Although there is a picture on the front of Mario on top of Yoshi with the Super Scope. So yeah, that is the game that eventually came here, known as Yoshi Safari. And a lot of people probably haven't really played that game. I remember actually back in the day, my parents got it for my sister a long time back for her birthday, and they actually got it used from, like, GameStop back when they used to sell retro games. They actually, you know, the North American version, they got her Yoshi Safari. But they didn't realize that you needed the Super Scope to play it. I don't even think the people at GameStop who sold it back then probably realized it. So we got home and we're at this title screen, we're like, why on earth? We're pressing start as much as we can and nothing is happening. And we realized, oh, there's some kind of gun peripheral that you need to play this game. But man, that's over 10 years ago. That's over 10 years ago now. It's kind of funny to look back at that. Also, you might see that I have a stamp on my hand now from the swap meet. So, you know, I could you know, go out and then come back in. Also, we have Super Mario Yoshi Island. A really kind of interesting, I really like actually the label art for this game. You just have a nice picture of Yoshi Island, you have a nice title there. Interesting, it's not called Super Mario World 2 in Japan, which is actually something I did not know. It's just Super Mario Yoshi Island, which I think is really neat. I didn't need to, you know, kind of, you know, persuade people to buy it by saying it was a sequel to, you know, Yoshi's Island. Next up, we have Super Game Boy, complete in the box. Now, the fact that I have a Super Game Boy too, which is, you know, only released in Japan, kind of defeats the purpose of this, but it's complete in the box, and I thought it was really neat, and again, I love my import stuff, especially when it's complete, and just the Japanese boxes are always just so cool. So that's why I picked this up. That was pretty cool. And also, this piece, which is something I've always really wanted, and I saw it, I was like, okay, I'm picking that up, is the Super Shooting Watch. Now, it looks just kind of like a Super Nintendo controller, but hopefully you can see there's kind of a little display there. Now I'm going to take this out of the box. I don't take everything out of the box because things are a pain to get back into boxes. When I take them out for, when I do a video and I take everything out of the box, I'm just kind of surrounded by things I have to spend the next 2 hours putting back into their box. But inside, it is complete. We get this thing right here. And yeah, it looks almost exactly like a Super Nintendo controller. But what this is, made by Hudson Soft, who made a whole bunch of, shooter games back then, back in the day. And what this does is it has a number of features, but the main thing it's for is it keeps track of how much you can mash the buttons so that when you play a shoot 'em up, you can kind of tell, how fast you can do it. What's the best way to explain it? So, a game like 1943 for the NES. I know it's a Super Nintendo controller. This is the Super Shooting Watch. There was a previous version which was more like a Famicom controller. But either way, it's still cool to have regardless. This one is really neat. It can keep track of, how many times you can mash the shoot button in a minute so that you can, kind of work to improve. You have like the whole Rocky thing going on to get better at your shoot 'em up games. And I think that's just such a really, really, really cool item. It also acts as things like as a stopwatch, and it does a few other things too. But the main purpose is, so you can improve your shoot 'em up abilities. And I just think it's so bizarre that this thing exists in the first place. This is like the second version of it too. At least the second version. I actually don't know every single version there was out there. Although I do know that there was like a version of it that more resembled a Famicom controller. Like I wonder if in Japan you'd ever, it'd be like on the bus or the train or something like that. You can just be sitting across from a guy just mashing away at this thing, trying to improve his shoot 'em up abilities. But it's just something I've always really wanted to get my hands on, especially because, I love shoot 'em ups. I probably won't use it too much, in fear of breaking it, because I would be very sad if I did that. But yeah, it's just so weird that, they thought we should make this thing that could allow people to see how many times they can press buttons. I just think that's so cool. And yeah, I was really, really happy to see that and be able to add it to my collection. So yes. Those are the Super Famicom things, and wow, that took a long time to just explain those. It is really funny though, I should mention before I forget, when I go to swap meets and things like that, there's of course, the retro gaming community. A lot of people from, a lot of kind of around the area where I am go to them, so it's not like it's just all from the city that they're held in. I actually have to travel like, an hour to get to it. So I see a whole bunch of people that I regularly see at other swap meets and things like that, but then there's also people I've never run into before, and they actually recognize me from my YouTube videos, and I think that's really, really, really funny. There's some people who are like, oh yeah, you look familiar, oh yeah, you have videos. And then today there was another person who was like, oh yeah, I recognized your voice because you have a really distinctive voice. And I thought that was actually really funny. Well, overall, it is really fun going to those things too, and running into people who have seen my videos and things like that. So thank you if you are one of those people who I meet up at, see at swap meets, and you do watch all of the crazy things I for some reason upload to the internet. It means a lot. Anyway, let's see, what's the next thing I've pulled out here? Quest 64. I of course have the game. It is one of my favorite games. I used to rent it all the time as a kid, until one day I didn't rent it anymore. like any game, eventually you stop renting it. But then a few years down the road, I was like, oh man, I wish I had Quest 64 to play. So I went and did this big search, and I eventually found it used. And then yeah, that was a lot of fun. But the point is, I never had the box for it because I did not buy it new. So today I bought the box and the manual. So now I can say that my Quest 64 is complete. A lot of people aren't massive fans of Quest 64. It's a very bizarre RPG, and it definitely has its flaws. But on a console that hardly had any RPGs, I guess you gotta take what you can. And yeah, Quest 64, it's fun to play around with. If you're not super serious about your RPGs. If you're super serious, you need to have all these stat systems, and it needs to be super complicated and things like that. You probably won't like Quest 64, but it's fun if you just feel like, messing around with a crazy RPG. Let's see what we got here. Some more import stuff, I guess. We have the Pocket Camera, which came to, North America as the Gameboy camera. Yeah, the Nintendo Pocket Camera Red version, in case you couldn't tell from the box, is exactly like the North American Gameboy camera, except the box looks pretty cool. It's not just a picture of the actual peripheral. It's actually, custom art. And it, advertises on the back that you could take a picture of someone's face and add it to the ball Game & Watch game. That was always the most fun part of that. It really is ridiculous. Also, wow, I really should have mentioned this first. I'm just taking too long to mention things. I traded, what was it called? Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures for a new NES game. Yes! Pradius Conflict, or Pradius Conflict. I don't know, I haven't even tried it yet. But yes, so this is another NES game to, make that gap between completing it even narrower, because we're under 50 games now. And yeah, I made a trade for this, and it's a Color Dreams game, as you can tell, and it's pretty cool. And I was happy to pick that up. I actually know someone who recently bought the source code on a floppy disk for this off of eBay for like $400, which is kind of funny. So it's funny that I actually ended up picking it up. Also, I don't even know what this thing is. Like, why is that in there? I can't even answer that. Next up, we have Sonic the Hedgehog 2. For the Sega Master System. Now, I picked up number 1 not too long ago. So I was actually quite happy to get number 2, especially since I didn't get number 1 in the case. Having number 2 with the case is especially nice. Unfortunately, no manual, but the game and case themselves are, nice as they are. Of course, the Master System games are like the Game Gear games, but you can play them on your TV, which is pretty neat. If you didn't have Sonic Adventure DX back in the 90s, like, everyone did, but some people didn't. Next up, we have a brand new in the box, Atari Lynx AC adapter, so it's not eating up your 6 AA's in like 3 hours. It's like, you had things back then, like the Virtual Boy came out and originally only had the battery pack, and then they realized, people were going through 1 million batteries a second, so they had to make the AC adapter for it. So, yeah, back then, with the exception of like maybe the original Game Boy and pretty much anything that Nintendo made back then was usually pretty good on on batteries, except for the Virtual Boy. But things like the Game Gear and the Lynx, you were usually best off to have AC adapters, so that you weren't constantly putting 6 new AA batteries into it. That could get expensive rather fast. Also, something pretty cool, we have the Nintendo E3 Blowout DVD CD-ROM video disc that, gives trailers on a whole bunch of new games coming out in the very near future, such as The Legend of Zelda, that's not even titled. That would be, like, the tech demo they showed. When the GameCube was first announced, and everyone's like, oh my god, look at that! And then they came up with Wind Waker a few years later, and many people cried. Actually, no. Actually, what year is this? Maybe, no. Because it's advertising Metroid Prime 2, so maybe it's actually not as early of a DVD as I thought. I haven't watched it yet. Again, I'm making this video right after coming home, but we also have things for Paper Mario 2, Zelda the Minish Cap, Star Fox, and it says every Nintendo DS game. So this would have been right around when the Nintendo DS was coming out. So, not Wind Waker. Twilight Princess would have been quite a ways away at that time, although it did keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed until eventually the Wii came out, and we all know what happened then. Next up, we're not going to spend too long on these things. I'm spending too long talking about things. We have, complete in the box, Pac-Man Pinball. I don't know what it was about the Game Boy Advance. I had the Mario Pinball, Pac-Man Pinball. I guess I just felt like, every series needed the pinball game on the Game Boy, on the GBA. And Tetris World, complete in the box, on the Game Boy Advance. Complete in the box, not on the box. Also, some random PS2 games. We have Guilty Gear Isuka. We have Swashbucklers Blue vs. Gray. Crazy pirate Western shooting thing there. We have VeggieTales. Now, man, VeggieTales is that thing that you watched back when you were in, like, elementary school. I don't remember anything about it, but I saw this game and I'm like, I need to add that to my collection just so I can mention VeggieTales in one of my videos. Also, we have Wallace and Gromit in Project Zoo. People might know this is one of my favorite GameCube games. I almost hesitated there. It is a really, really, really good platformer, actually. And Wallace and Gromit themselves are pretty cool, too. So if you ever have a chance to pick that up, it's a very inexpensive game. You'll probably get some fun out of it. There's lots of collectibles, and people will know I love my collectathons. It's almost like a Donkey Kong 64, but not quite. And we have Evil Prophecy, which looks like a pretty evil game. And it's rated M, so you know that all the 10-year-olds are playing it. Let me see what else we've got here. We have some N-Gage games. Who the heck picks up N-Gage games? Now, I actually traded one of those mini, what are they called? Man, I don't know why I can't say it today. Strategy guides for Pokemon Platinum that I was talking about for these. So there's like one for all these, so I mean, it's like, why not? We have Pandemonium for N-Gage, which I look on the back. It looks like kind of a Crash Bandicoot-ish game. I don't think this was released for any other console. Or if I was, please correct me in that. But yeah, I'm going to have to pull out the N-Gage and give this a shot, man. N-Gage is back there. Now, they're not in the video. I'm kind of looking up above above my shelves where the boxes are. I have a couple of them complete in the box. The N-Gage is such a weird thing, but it does have some games, yeah, I pick them up from time to time. Not very often. Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2004, and The Sims Bustin' Out. I remember that was one of the things I'll never forget, I walked into a GameStop right back when the N-Gage was coming out. And I was looking through, I think the DS was out new around that time too, so I was looking through the DS stuff, and they actually had an N-Gage display set up, and someone's like, wow, you can play Sims on this! And I thought that was kind of funny. It's like, yes, get an N-Gage just for the Sims, which you can now play on pretty much anything ever. But I guess back then that was probably like one of the very first things you could. There might have been like a 2D Game Boy Advance version or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, what else we got here? We have Jam It, some crazy basketball thing for the Sega Genesis, because my collection would not be complete without it. We also have, complete in the box, Dragon Quest III. I love my Famicom stuff, especially complete in box Famicom stuff, because it has the book and everything in there, you know, plastic insert. And my Famicom collection does not have enough Dragon Quest in it, so I decided to grab that. What else we got? With manual and game for Sega 32X, we have Star Wars Arcade, which I picked up. Kind of getting a pretty big tower of things stacked up over here. We have some figures, because, you know, things like this are always fun. People will know I love hanging things like this around. We have some Super Mario Galaxy 2 stuff. Now, people might know about my gripes with Super Mario Galaxy 2, but we can put those aside for a minute, as we have B, Mario and Luigi, as well as this figure is extremely ridiculous. Spring Mario. I mean, who remembers that? Actually, Mario was just stealing this power-up from Wario, who, you know, would get crushed down in the Wario Land games, then he could jump super high with the spring. So, again, Mario is just leeching off of Wario's success, which isn't really success, but I guess it's Wario's innovation, and Mario just steals it, and everyone thinks it's new, because no one's ever played the Wario Land games, which is really, really sad. Also, over here, we have some Nintendo Power magazines. Now, I love my old Nintendo Power magazines. I really like around the NES and Super Nintendo era, and then the beginning of the GameCube era. I wasn't a super massive fan of kind of the Nintendo 64, like back when Nintendo 64 was like really new. They kind of changed the magazine up, and I wasn't a big fan of many of the changes that they made, but these two issues right here, I mean, they're really thick. Like, how many pages we got here? Like 170 pages of Nintendo Power. Like, that's ridiculous. And by the end, they were down to like almost less than 100. So these were like definitely some of the prime days of Nintendo Power. But yes, we have issue number 139 with Banjo-Tooie on the front, and issue number 150 with, you know, Super Mario 64 on the front, yeah. Luigi's Mansion is a fantastic game. What else we got in here? We have, for the Super Nintendo, we have Plock. Is, you know, another thing that my collection would not be complete without. We have Pokemon Crystal in Japanese, which is pretty neat. And the final thing inside of this box, actually, I should show you the elastic band first, because this is going to explain why the thing I'm about to pull out is such a mess. Because that elastic band is keeping it together. Now, I have a Nintendo 64 version of this item I'm about to pull out, and the box for that is just as bad. Like, the glue, I guess, dried up after, you know, 10 minutes because of the cheap company that made the thing I'm about to show you, and yeah, the box just falls apart as a result. But the thing I do want to show you, you know, despite the size of the box, or the shape of the box, is the Game Shark for the Game Boy. Now, people will know, if you've watched my videos, that I have done videos of Game Shark with Game Boy games. So I do have one of these, but, man, Game Shark things are so cheaply made. Like, they break when you look at them. Like, I had, like, 5 Nintendo 64 Game Sharks before I actually found one that worked. Like, it's ridiculous. So, my current one actually has not been working super well lately, so someone was selling this with the box and everything, so I decided to grab that. So, since it, you know, had the box and everything, it came with that. Came with this cord, which it looks like it plugs into the link cable on your Game Boy Advance. Or, sorry, not the Game Boy Advance, or Game Boy Color, it looks like. Yeah, it's the smaller one, so either Game Boy Pocket or Game Boy Color, I think. And then it goes to your computer, so it's interesting stuff you could probably do with that. It comes with this CD-ROM, and it also has some instruction manuals, and this book called The Ultimate Unofficial Pokemon Guidebook, which has cheats for everything up to Crystal in it, which is really weird. So hopefully this Game Shark works better than my other one, which for some reason, you know, decided that's it, no more, you know, no more cheats, and we'll see what we can pull off with this thing. Hopefully. Also, we have an advertisement for the Game Boy Advance Game Shark in the back. So yeah, hopefully with this, we'll be able to do some stuff. And also, just look at that. yeah, the glue came undone and the box fell apart. So yeah, my Nintendo 64 boxed Game Shark had the exact same problem. And I don't know why I'm putting all this back in the box. But yes, this is what I picked up at the swap meet today. And as I said, I traded for most of this, which is really cool. And I paid a little bit for some of the other things. But overall, I love my import stuff. I love my obscure stuff. And where did I put it now? Where on earth did it go? Because, yeah, I have so much stuff over here now that everything is kind of buried under everything. There it is. You know, it's things like this that make me really, 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 really happy. It's just bizarre, and so many people will just look at it and be like, I don't even know what the heck that is. But to me, it's just such a cool item. To, you know, it's just ridiculous. Now I can go on the bus and make everyone look at me, and they'll be like, what the heck is that freak doing? And there'll be like that one guy who says, oh my gosh, he's so cool, he's doing the thing. No one will probably think that. And back in the day, someone paid 2,480 yen for this. Yeah, that's just so neat. North America never gets anything cool. Oh. And with that said, hopefully you enjoyed seeing the things that I picked up at the swap meets. And yeah, they are super fun. Again, it was held. I have some pins here that they gave up. People will also know I like pins. By VGCC.ca. Well, it doesn't show up at all on the camera, but I just said it, so you can go and check them out, find out when they're holding another swap meet, see if you are anywhere nearby, and if it falls on the right day, I'll probably be at the next one as well. But yeah, swap meets, got some pickups, and I think this video, combined with all the other footage that will be tacked on, has gone on for quite long enough. So thanks for watching this. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for, you know, talking to me. If you, like, you know, you saw me at the swap meet and you know about my crazy video thing on the internet. And yeah, hope to see you next time for something different. So thanks, and see you later.